Okay, this is the daily money-making setups for the S&P Emini using the 1500 tick bar chart from processtrading.com using the right edge trading system. Now, there were a lot of trades available today, but really only a couple good ones. So we're going to go over the setups because that's the definition that the trades had been set up by the indicators, and they would either be for a trend trade or discretionary trade. So we see that the process trading VWAP is yellow, and that means it's in an uptrend. And so any time for a trend trade, you're allowed to take a trade to the upside. You're allowed to take a long trade anywhere there is a timing alert dot below the price bars. So here's the beginning of the day right over here where this vertical line is. And the first dot comes in right here. So we're allowed to take that dot and using the trade management system where we buy into strength by placing our order entry 2 points above the high of this bar. As it went up to this right here, we could have made a point on that. So that's satisfactory. However, we come down here, we see the next trade, and it likewise, the process trading VWAP was yellow, the timing alert dots below the price bar, so we take a trade, place our order entry 2 points above the high of this bar, and we take it up to here, and we could have made 2 points. So those are the first trades of the day. But the real first trade of the day that is significant, and it's really kind of counterintuitive because the VWAP here is yellow. Now, if it turns gray, then we have to trade to the short side. And we do that by taking timing alert dots that are above the price bars. So right here, it's been yellow, it's been yellow, it's been yellow. And right here, it turns gray. So we're actually taking a counter trend trade here. Although it's been going up strongly to the upside, this timing alert dot right here, you wouldn't read that as though it were with a yellow VWAP. But if you were to, because this is gray, so that really makes it a counter trend trade. So if that is the case, although this timing alert dot alerted us to the fact that a trade might be available, because of the gray right there, we look down to our discretionary indicators. The first discretionary indicator is the Intergy. And we see from the Intergy that supply had come in. Now, supply is starting to wane right here. And you can see the divergence. Even though price is coming down right here, and it crosses below the VWAP, the internal energy or the supply is weakening, and it's getting shorter and shorter and approaching demand side of it. And in particular, within the Intergy histogram here, we see a trend alert dot. Now, we don't know really right now, by just looking at this one indicator, if that means there's going to be an uptrend or a downtrend. However, as we go down and we look at the sentiment oscillator, we clearly see which way this is going. We have the sentiment oscillator, and again, it has the tricolor momentum line cutting up through the sentiment line, which is a very strong indication that price is going to go up. So right at this point, we see that even though the slope is slightly down and is starting to flatten out here, it reached the midline in the sentiment oscillator, the momentum is cutting up through the sentiment line. We look back up here, we see that it's a green bar right at that point as well, so demand is starting to come in. And then we look down to our short-term trend indicator, and we see very strongly that that is an uptrend. The uptrend started way back here. You can see it immediately started way back there, and it actually changed from short to long right here, but the slope is of most significance, and it had crossed the pullback line. So that's another high probability indication that price is going to keep going when it crosses that pullback line, this yellow line right here. So with all those indications, if we still applied our trade management technique to this, even though it's a contrarian trade, and we placed our order entry 2 points above the high of this bar, as we get in, we would get in on this bar right here, right in the middle of this bar right here. Well, at that time, the process trading VWAP had turned back to yellow. That's not exactly how it would validate this, because this is a contrarian trade right here, just because it is the process trading VWAP is gray. But by the time we would get into that, had we placed our order entry here using the trade management technique, by the time our trade got filled, which would have left us plenty of time to either continue or get out of it, and the whole idea is to buy into strength, and we see all that strength within these indicators down here, the discretionary indicators, then we would have got in and we would have made 12 points. So that's the probably the best trade of the day, but is also the most tricky trade of the day. So then we have these bands right here, which are the contrabands or contrarian trade bands. And the way that those are used is that price has to go up to those bands, and then you can trade to the opposite direction or contrarian way if there is a timing alert dot associated with it. So you could have taken this timing alert dot and been successful. You could not have taken this one, although had you taken it, you would have been successful. There's nothing within the system that allows you to take this. That would be purely discretionary on these indicators down here, which again, it would have been successful, but it is not a system trade, it's a discretionary trade. The same with this, this was a system trade because price is above the contraband here. It's got a timing alert dot, so you can take it to the downside and you would have been successful here. So the last trade that's possible is over here. You have a timing alert dot. You have price going up to the contrarian band line right here and right here. When you look down at the discretionary indicators that allow you to take a contrarian trade, they're all in agreement. You see that the main one here, the sentiment oscillator, where the momentum is cutting down through the sentiment line, and the sentiment line itself is sloping severely downward, and the short-term trend is sloping downward. So at this point here, this is a good trade as well, and had you taken this, that would have been good for another 12 points. So those are the setups today. We had a lot of setups. We had small setups here and here to the upside. We had small setups here and here to the downside. But the two main trades were right here, which really was a contrarian trade. That's why we looked down to our indicators to see if it would still be a good trade. And also over here, this is a contrarian trade because the process trading VWAP is yellow, so that says it's in an uptrend. So now we are making a contrarian trade here, and that would have been successful. So those are our two main trades. These are the setups that were available on the S&P E-mini today, so that if you want to see these each day, go ahead and subscribe. And if you want to see how the indicators and the system itself works as a whole, go on over to processtrading.com, and the system and all the indicators are explained over there in the blogs, in the videos. So, I hope all your trades are successful, and I will see you on the next setups video.